Okay, so our philosophy here with Tali, internationally regarded MC, vocalist. You're also a freestyler, singer, songwriter. You've written a book, as far as I know. You're an inspirational speaker and a mentor as well. So, and I know that although it might sound you've got the lyric on your lip all the time, that might not be the case anymore. So you might have asked, I think most people want to ask you about it, but no, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna talk about Tali's groundbreaking achievements within drum and bass, maybe later. But I rather want to ask you about mentoring and teaching, right?
Okay.
So if you could give me advice about life, you don't know me. We've met a couple of minutes ago for the first time, right? Is there anything you would tell me, anything apart from your motto, live life to the fullest?
One of the best pieces of advice that I was ever given was by my best friend.
Yeah.
And she told me a really good way to get through life is it's not about the action, it's about your reaction to what happens to you.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what happens to you, depending on how you choose to react to it, whether it's positively or negatively, ultimately affects the path that you walk from then on out.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good piece of advice because it really did and has helped me in many situations where things have happened to me that maybe weren't so great. And in the past, I might have dealt with them quite negatively, but since that, I now deal with them in a different way. I'm like, okay, I could choose to be like really upset about this.
Do you let them slide? Do you take them in? Do you try to work with them?
Everything, all of it. I look at the situation and I look at how it's going to affect me going forward. So another thing is when I do my inspirational speaking, I talk about opportunities a lot. When I was being taught how to drive, my dad
in New Zealand.
Yeah, my dad used to say to me, don't just look at the car in front, look through the cars ahead. And I think life is like that. When we are presented with opportunities, don't just look at what that opportunity will do for you here and now, but look through the opportunity and say to yourself, is this an opportunity that could perhaps lead me into something else and lead me further? So yeah, those are my kind of gems.
All right, perfect. What would you tell to people that might feel they've got the opportunities but they are not taking them? You know, they're not taking advantage of what they think they might be thinking ahead.
I always say, like, if you have a passion, how much do you want it?
Okay.
How badly do you want it? If it is enough that it puts you outside of your comfort zone and it makes you feel and do things that may not be quite natural for you, maybe that's a good thing because you can always learn from being put outside of your comfort zone, you know?
Do you do that often? Do you put yourself out of your comfort zone?
Yeah, all the time. Every time I get on stage.
Okay, I mean
people think it's quite natural for me, but I'm not naturally an extrovert. Like, on stage, I'm an extrovert.
Okay.
But in my personal life, I'm quite private and I'm actually quite shy in a lot of situations.
Okay, that's understandable.
But people make assumptions based on what they see and they think that you're going to be like that, and then they make conversation with you and people are often quite surprised that I'm not as like,
It's kind of your, you know, public profile.
Yeah.
You're up there, you're kind of leading the charge.
Yeah.
The DJ.
Yeah. So I do step outside my comfort zone.
All right.
Every time I teach, I'm stepping outside my comfort zone because you never know what the kids are going to give you. Every day is different, you know. So I freestyle in the classroom a lot as well.
Yeah, so you're a coordinator at a Sylvia Park School, right?
Yeah, big up Sylvia Park School.
Still?
Yeah, this is my third year, so I'm a music specialist.
Music specialist, so you teach children or?
Children from age 5 to 13.
Okay.
I teach 2 days a week.
All right.
Everything from songwriting to performance.
Okay.
But I also do stuff with the New Zealand Music Commission called In Schools Mentoring, and they send me to schools around New Zealand, and I go into the school and I do workshops with students.
So yeah, you're a motivational speaker as well, but where do you get the motivation to keep going? Because it's
from other people that I'm inspired by.
Okay.
So I'm a motivational speaker, but a lot of my sort of passion and inspiration comes from looking at other people that are also motivational and also inspirational, and they're not necessarily like big profile people. Like my mother inspires me every day. She's an artist, she's an introvert, and she puts herself out there every day, you know, and my mother inspires me, you know. So
awesome.
Everyone.
Speaking of family, so I know you were born in Oakura.
Yes, very
Okura?
good. Oakura, very good pronunciation.
So it's a township of 1,400 people.
Oh my God,
I mean,
is it?
yeah, I mean, you lived in London, Bristol, right?
And now I live in Auckland.
And you live in Auckland, which are kind of big cities. How was growing up by the sea?
Well, I actually didn't grow up in Oakura. I grew up in a farming community called Awatuna, and it is in the middle of nowhere.
Do you have any Maori roots?
No. No, but I do feel closely associated with Māori because I grew up knowing the culture. So growing up in a farm was challenging. I was the youngest of four.
Youngest of four, okay.
Yeah.
See, people wouldn't know that you would be the youngest.
So I'm the youngest of four. So my brothers and sisters, my oldest brother's like 9 years older than me.
Okay.
So, you know, my brothers had left home by the time I was 13, you know. So I spent a lot of time on my own, but I think that was very formative because it encouraged my imagination. I used to sing and write raps and poems a lot, you know.
That's what my kind of next question would be, because I was going to ask about surfing and stuff like that, you know, the usual New Zealand stuff.
Yeah.
You do, okay.
Well, I mean, I'm not great.
It's a you know, like we skate.
Yeah, I
play ice hockey,
as
but
well.
it doesn't mean that we're pros.
No, I skated at school as well.
Right.
My school skirt used to have splits in the side from dropping in on the ramp.
Okay.
And I'd skate ramp, and I'd come home and my mum would be like, "Why do you have splits in your school skirt?" And I'd be like, "I mean skating."
That's
I skated,
cool.
I surfed, and snowboarding is my passion.
So that kind of, you know, puts into contrast the fact that I know that you've been, might not be a fact, I don't know. You were trained, you know, in a classical way at both piano and singing. So how do you go from playing the piano and then skateboarding?
Because I grew up in the country. I grew up in a town. I went to high school in a town called Opanaki by the sea, and then later on, my parents moved to Oakura. Okay. And you enjoy the outdoors. I mean, New Zealand is paradise. You know, like you do the things that you're good at, like singing and piano. But obviously, I'm an active person. I like to keep fit, and I have a lot of energy. So
okay, that's great. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have like apart from songwriting and music, you kind of have to, you know, let it out somewhere else, right?
Well,
like physically.
I love exercise. Like I've just started boxing.
All right.
So I just bought my first pair of gloves, and I'm.
Okay. Yeah.
And I love it. And I do yoga. I mean, I think it's really important to keep the body fit and the mind fit.
The mind fit. Yeah. All right. So I know that your main sources of inspiration used to be, I mean, jazz, soul, blues, and then rap music, obviously.
The other way around, actually. Rap music and then jazz and soul and blues.
How has, you know, such background influenced your songwriting and, well, your production?
I mean, it's not so much the writing, it's more the melody structures.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I'm really influenced by a lot of black music, so soul music and jazz, as you say, so a lot of the vocals and melody lines that I have are like, you know, like quite jazz, experimental, a lot of R&B. But in terms of my lyrical content, I mean, I'm just influenced by everything around me. I've always written poetry. I've written a book, as you know, and it's like channeling that content into songs. So I love writing about things that mean something. I mean, every now and then I'll write a dance floor banger.
About what?
A dance floor banger. But very rarely. Like most of my songs are about something. They have meaning and they make you feel something.
All right. So what I'm realizing right now, I think about your, at least, you know, the beginning in drum and bass, you kind of started with the heavier stuff, and now...
The heavier stuff?
Yeah, I would like take step
you think Lyrical Motive is heavy?
Yeah, sort of, you know. But now you're, with Emma G, you're kind of doing like the soulful thing with drum and bass.
I've always loved the soulful liquid stuff.
Okay.
But I'm also like, I'm very flexible, and people want me to MC with them, and they want me to do tunes in a certain style.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like Trey, like I did Forces and Rebels with him. I MC with the upbeats. That's not my forte. Like, I wouldn't say that I'm really good at that, but they love me doing that.
I'm gonna skip ahead. I remember you emceeing with NDC at a pirate station in 2014.
In Russia.
That's kind of, it was kind of hard and big for me. It was kind of like after like a big break where I didn't know anything about you. It was like, oh, there's MC Tali with NDC.
Yeah.
And you were kind of doing it, and I'm like, okay.
But that's the thing. I feel like part of my durability, part of why I've lasted so long is that I'm not afraid to try everything. Like, I MC over dubstep. I MC with another girl in New Zealand called Aroha. We do tech house sets.
Okay.
We fly all around New Zealand playing festivals, doing tech house. You know, because music isn't something that should confine you. It's something that should uplift you and release you and open you to all sorts of avenues. I am not a one-trick pony. Yes, liquid, soul, that's my absolute passion.
Perfect.
But you know, I love the shit that Garrett and Stone are playing in the background.
You're kind of playing at a you know, there's a national theatre right there, big piece of history. It's kind of unusual as well, right? So what music takes you. But before we go there, I just wanted to ask one more thing, because you kind of are a strong defender of women rights in the music industry,
of course,
right?
Of course.
What do you think of women getting paid 30% less than men throughout various industries?
What do I think of it? What do you think?
Have you come across it in drum and bass, for example?
Well, no, because I'm very demanding and I say what I'm worth. You know, like, especially in New Zealand, like, if a promoter wants to book me, I'm one of the very few MCs. So if you want to book me, you pay what I'm worth.
What about the others who might not be, you know, that, you know, strong or, you know, willing to go?
Well, I mean, people are taking the piss, aren't they? Really? I mean.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, I'm not saying like me and Emma aren't going to be paid the same as like Andy C and GQ at the end of the day. Like, they're out there, aren't they? But I think that there is nothing wrong with demanding what you think you're worth, or what you know you're worth. Obviously, there's going to be some deluded people out there who are like, I'm fucking worth $5,000, and they're not. But I mean, it's tricky because I'm not an agent. I can only speak for myself when it comes to things like money. But I think, you know, like when you start out, obviously you're going to start out with a small fee. But as your profile grows, then so should your fee. And I know there are people who are afraid to ask for more because they're worried that it will prevent them from being booked. But I don't agree with that necessarily.
I mean, I understand it. I write about some stuff about women getting paid half less than male artists or in painting. So it's kind of I think it's always should be brought up for people who are not that strong that could stand up for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think having an agent definitely helps.
Okay.
I mean, I have two really great agents, Twice the Hype is my agency back in New Zealand, for the tech house stuff. But with the drum and bass stuff, the scene's quite small.
Yeah.
We all know each other, and all the promoters know pretty much what my fee is, and they don't take the piss. They respect me. If they want to book me, they know what to pay. And I mean, I'm lucky because at home in New Zealand,
to be.
Well, we're a family, you know, like at the end of the day, everyone who's in drum and bass respects and acknowledges each other, and we all work together because we want our scene to flourish. So
I mean, the New Zealand scene, the drum and bass one at least, is pretty strong, right?
It's very strong.
You've named most of them. Do you still perform at home? Like, how do the parties look like?
When I go home, so I get back on Monday, I have to teach Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm playing a show on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday, I'm emceeing with the Upbeats and Alex Perez.
Okay, there you go. Perez is there again.
I'm like, oh my God.
But I mean, you've spent some time in the UK, and after the first success, you kind of returned back to your homeland, and you've been pretty busy back home. So you wrote a book, The Little White House, right?
Yeah.
How is, so it's a piece of writing, but you've been writing lyrics and kind of stories your whole life. Could you tell us how different is writing songs and books? A book?
Writing a book is way different because it's one continuous conscious stream of thought. Songs are different little slices of life.
With your soul side sessions with Emma, you kind of said that you want to write and keep it going.
Soul side sessions are actually very challenging to write. People don't really know. Obviously I've written 7 albums, not all of them drum and bass.
Yeah, that's.
And each song is something different for the album. With soul side sessions, I don't get a choice. I mean I do, but I don't get a choice in the music really. It's Emma's creation.
Yeah.
I just have to try and fit in. But I am effectively writing an album's worth of work for every single mix because it's 45 to 50 minutes worth of raps, songs, that's all original. So, and sometimes it takes me 2 weeks to do a soul side sessions. Sometimes it takes me 3 days. It really depends on the vibe. But writing a book, I mean, that took me a fucking year.
How long?
A year.
A year.
But I mean, it was a year and nearly 2 years from when I wrote it, finished writing it, and sent it to the publishers to getting it published. But that was one of my biggest dreams was to write a book.
Yeah, after such a long time, after a year, when you look at it in retrospect, do you still like it?
Yeah.
Would you be able to read it?
It's so painful because you have to keep going back over and rereading and I will read that bloody book I've read it about 20 bloody times. But by the end of the book, when it was writing itself, it was like I was typing and the thoughts were coming and I was crying. I was like, oh my God, this is really good. I can't believe this is the ending.
Okay,
and
that's
also
good
I
sign.
finished. It was probably one of the most momentous things I've ever done was write that book.
Right, that's great.
And get it published.
I translate, so I've got a book as well, but let's not talk about that. I understand the feeling when you're done.
That's awesome.
I can't look at it, but I understand the feeling. But I want to talk about your relationship with Emma.
Okay.
Because at first, you came here as a duo, you kind of, perform, and it seems like a natural fit. Two strong ladies. You have known each other for some time, 9 years, I think.
Yeah.
Could you tell us how did you guys meet and what was that all about?
We met in London. I was living there. Emma was playing at a after party for Shapeshifter, this New Zealand drum and bass band.
I think they performed in Czech as well.
Maybe.
At some time 15 years ago.
They're our boys, they're our bros. Emma was playing at the after party. I thought she was a great DJ. We started talking, we had an instant connection. I was telling her about how I want to do more for women in the scene and do something more special, and she was like, well, I want to make a mix and I want to MC, and we just basically came to this conclusion that we should do this thing. And we went out for dinner last night actually, and we were talking about it. Me and Emma,
Sorry.
and we were saying how lucky we are that we get on so well, and that we lift each other up. When one of us is down, the other's like, come on, and we're really lucky because we have such a beautiful relationship. No one ever dominates. It's always like, what do you think about this? No, I disagree. Okay, well maybe I'll try this. And sometimes I'll be like, no, Emma, and she'll be like, okay. And sometimes she'll be like, no, Tali, and I'll be like, okay. But we are so lucky to have this chemistry, and we know it shows.
It does.
What you see is 100% genuine. I love her. She is my sister.
Today at Slomena Scena in Prague?
This was my favorite show of the whole tour.
Yeah, okay, that's nice.
I know for Emma it maybe technically she was not loving it as much because she was having problems with the sound.
Oh yeah, all right.
But for me, the vibe was the best.
Because you arrived kind of early, which is great, and you've been to Radio 1 in Prague.
Yeah.
And I mean, they played Blazing, obviously. Is it?
And they played Love and Migration.
You released it 15 years ago. Is it the same like with the book, that you kind of like don't want to look at it because you've done it, and now that when you look at the stuff that you've done, which is so old?
So I didn't listen to that album for years. I was like, fuck, I don't want to listen to that. It's
Why?
Because it's like putting on a really old dress and it doesn't quite fit properly. But you know what? I listened to it a couple of months ago from start, because this year is 15-year anniversary, and I'm re-releasing it through Triple Vision digitally. So for the first time, you'll be able to get Lyric on My Lip on Spotify and Amazon and Apple Music for the first time.
All right.
So that's this year. We're doing that later in the year.
There you go.
I listened to it from start to finish, and I was like, you know what, this is actually a fucking cool album.
Of course, come on.
But you know, I just...
I'm not going to swear in front of a lady, but
yeah, and I was actually
I know it.
I was quite proud of it.
I mean, you should be.
Yeah.
It's cool. Because it's a thing you released, 15 years ago. You met Ronnie Size at a party, you came to him, and you moved from New Zealand to Bristol, right? You stayed there for 5 years, I think, before moving to London.
Yeah, and then moved to London.
And it kind of is like, it's a big journey. Like, you've come a long way, as Fatboy Slim would have said, right?
Yeah.
Would you consider those years, like when you look at them, because some of the people say that it's like the golden era of drum and bass, and you've said that there used to be a feeling of unity and respect during that time, and it's kind of vanished for you for a while. Do you think it's returning, or?
Yes, 100%. I think a big part of that is because I live in New Zealand, and the scene is incredible. And everyone is one big family, and everyone is so supportive, and they treat me with absolute respect. And and I've seen Ronnie and Di and Crust and Dynamite since those formative years, and we've talked about those times, and Di said things to me like, you were a breath of fresh air for us. You came in and shone a light when we needed it, and we treated you really harshly, like we made you work really hard, and we put you through a lot of things that emotionally you were not equipped to deal with, and I had a really hard time working with them because I was the first girl that ever signed, and they didn't really know what they were doing with me, and a lot of the time I was fending for myself. As much as they were trying to support me, they're men a lot older than me, and a lot of the time I was fending for myself, and I went through a lot of emotional stuff, but the thing is that we came out the other side, and now we can talk about it.
That's it.
And say, this has made us who we are. And I mean, I wouldn't change it for anything. I love them all so much.
It's a great journey because you came back, you've released a drum and bass album, which I think must have been hard after 7 years.
No, not hard at all.
No?
No, God no.
So not like 7-year hiatus. I mean, you've been releasing music.
I made music in between then. I did Keta, I did Wolves, which I produced myself. I was also doing loads of collaborations.
Okay. It kind of does sound like, when you look at the name Love and Migration, I think what eclipses your life as well. Like, love, migration.
Moving from different things.
I wanted to focus, because we talked about the love and the scene in New Zealand, about the migration. You traveling from one part of the world to another quite a lot. I mean, you said you were in London yesterday, or in Vienna. You're then going to New Zealand, and then you're going back.
I'm going back tomorrow.
Yeah, so.
But it's not metaphorical. It's not literal. It's metaphorical. Migration isn't necessarily just about moving from one place to another.
Yeah.
It's about self-love and going from a place of darkness within oneself and feeling a lack of self-worth and moving into a place of complete self-acceptance. You know, like I'm 40 now.
Okay.
So self-acceptance, self-love, feeling confident with who you are, surrounding yourself with people who love you and build you up. That's the migration I'm talking about.
Perfect.
And I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about all of us.
Yeah, I kind of took it maybe too late, but you've made the non-drum and bass albums before. Does your writing process differ from the ones that you do within drum and bass?
Pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same. It's just different tempos and gives me a chance to try out some different shit. And my album Wolves, I completely produced myself.
Yeah.
So that was like a whole nother challenge. Like, okay, I'm gonna produce an album. And I love that album. I'm so proud of it. And Keta, I love that album. You know, tunes with like Tokyo Pros and...
I want to, because we did an interview with Subtle last week in Bratislava 2 weeks ago, and you recorded a song together.
We've done two. We've done Language.
I didn't write it, I don't know, The one with the strange vocal.
Language.
Yeah, okay.
And we did The Sleep, which is out on Integral.
Okay.
That's on Saddle's Everything To Me EP.
All right. Can you tell us about the deep voice that you had to do?
It's just pitched down. The low vocal, the
vocal chords, like.
Yeah. So the verses, I got up really early in the morning, in my pajamas, and just sat there like real tired. Like I remember reading books as a young, and just like.
Okay.
Like my voice is deep anyway, but at that time of the morning, 9 in the morning, I'm like, and then the chorus, it's got me, that's just me fucking around with the vocal effects pedal.
All right.
So all the vocals on Love and Migration, I produced myself.
All right.
I sent them to the producers, I said, this is what I wanted to sound like, and they just laid it down like that.
That's good.
Because I'm a nerd, I love editing, I love recording.
That's awesome.
I geek out, I love being in the studio.
All right. I do have a couple more questions.
Okay.
You've also worked with Diggs, right, on the album?
Diggs.
He's kind of getting big.
Diggs.
Diggs? All right, so Diggs. What do you think about male vocalists? Like, how would you compare?
What do I think about them?
Yeah.
I love them.
Do you have any favorites?
DRS, obviously. He's my favorite MC.
Do you prefer rappers or singers?
I love singers. Like, I love Tyler Daly.
All right, yeah.
I love The View. I love the tune he's done with Colette Warren, One Exception. So beautiful. I loved, obviously, Diggs. I think he's great. I think he's fun and refreshing and he's my bro. Like, we talk a lot as well. He's really cool.
All right, last question. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Sorry. No. I mean, I'd love to talk. We could talk for hours maybe, but do you read? And if so, what kind of?
Do I read?
Yeah, do you read?
Yeah, I read a lot.
Books.
Yeah, because obviously, if you want to be a writer, you need to read a lot of material.
Okay.
I really love Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The Power of Now and A New Earth. A New Earth changed my life. It's all about learning to distinguish when your ego is speaking to you and disassociating yourself from the ego and speaking with your heart or interacting with your heart. That book changed my life. Like, I used to meet people and I'd be like, this internal dialogue going on in my head.
Okay.
This is what you look like, this is what you're saying to me, all this shit going on in my head. Once I read that book, it was like, forget all about that, just greet that person with an open heart. Okay, yep, this is what you're saying, all right, and this is my interaction with you. Brilliant, really brilliant book. But I love really crazy dystopian future books as well. Like,
okay.
I love books that...
Have you read Game of Thrones?
No, I haven't read Game of Thrones, but I watch it.
But okay.
Now, I'm talking more about, I read Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
I love crazy, weird books that, distort reality. David Mitchell is one of my favorite. He wrote Cloud Atlas, which is a brilliant book. But I also love books that just are really beautifully written. Donna Tartt, The Goldfinch, one of my absolute favorite books.
Awesome.
Incredible book.
Perfect.
It's about a boy who is caught up in a terrorist attack in an art gallery. He wakes up surrounded by rubble and he sees a painting, and he doesn't know why, but he takes the painting and he puts it in his jacket and he walks out. And it's what happens from him the rest of his life, owning this masterpiece that he's basically stolen from a gallery. It's amazing, like it's so beautifully written. But yeah, of course I read. I love reading.
Perfect. Is there anything you want to add? Anything you want to plug?
I just want to say
That camera, or that
I just
camera.
want to say a massive thank you to everyone here in Prague who supports my music. It was so amazing to see everybody singing my songs back to me tonight in the crowd. It nearly brought me to tears, actually. I don't want to go home to New Zealand tomorrow, but I have to. I'm going home with a very full heart, so thank you very much and see you again.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
You're very welcome.
Can I have your autograph?
Of course.
I know it's the most obvious one. But I mean, it's at Russian Optical and Marky and